A 3,000-year-old city has been found in the Guatemalan jungle. In Belize, archaeologists discovered the lost tomb of the very first king of Caracol, and new laser scans just revealed the Maya world was way more crowded than anyone thought. These are unbelievable Mayan discoveries that don't match human history. Archaeologists recently discovered a nearly 3,000-year-old Mayan city in Guatemala. It's called Los Abuelos, which translates to the grandparents. Officials say it dates back to about 800 to 500 BCE and is, quote, believed to be one of the earliest and most significant ceremonial centers of the Maya civilization in Guatemala's dense Petén region. The site covers about 6 square miles and got its name from what's been described by archaeologists as two human-like rock figures believed to represent an ancestral couple, so the grandparents. They're calling the city's layout pretty impressive as well, with what they describe as, quote, with remarkable architectural planning. There are pyramids, sanctuaries, monuments, some relics from about 500 to 300 BCE may be tied to ancient ritual practices and ancestor worship, the ministry added. There's a 108-foot pyramid, and nearby they also found water canals running through a palace, which is really cool. I mean, they were already thinking about plumbing way back then. Los Abuelos isn't just a single site, it's part of 3 sites that form a kind of triangle, showing these cities were probably connected and planned together. Archaeologists say these discoveries totally challenge what we know about how the Maya organized their cities and ceremonies. Arlen and Diane Chase are a husband and wife team from the University of Houston who've been excavating Caracol and Belize for more than 40 years. Recently, they found the tomb of K'ab Chaak, the first ruler of Caracol and the founder of its royal dynasty. Caracol was a major Maya city that controlled the southern Yucatan Peninsula from 560 to 680 before it was abandoned. This is the first ruler's tomb found in over 40 years of work at this site. K'ab Chaak, who became king in 331, was buried at the base of a royal shrine with all sorts of stuff. There was pottery vessels with carvings of rulers and captives, little carved bone tubes, jewelry made from jade, a mask made out of tiny jade pieces, and shells from the Pacific Ocean. The Chases think the king was around 5'7" and quite old when he died, with no teeth left in his head. This tomb was the first of 3 major burials at Caracol's northeast Acropolis, dating to about 350 CE, a time when the Maya were already in contact with the distant Mexican city of Teotihuacan. As Diane Chase said, one question that has perplexed Maya archaeologists since the 60s is whether a new political order was introduced to the Maya area by Mexicans from Teotihuacan. Arlen then added, both central Mexico and the Maya area were clearly aware of each other's ritual practices. Initial kings at various Maya cities such as K'ab Chaak were engaged in formal diplomatic relationships with Teotihuacan. Researchers just got a much better idea of how huge the Maya population really was thanks to lasers. Scientists used LiDAR to study the Maya lowlands in Guatemala, Belize, and Mexico. The results were pretty eye-opening. Before, they were putting the population at 11 million between 600 and 900 CE, but with the new research, they've bumped that number up to 16 million. Francisco Estrada Belli, the lead author of the study and research professor at Tulane University, said, "We expected a modest increase in population estimates from our 2018 LiDAR analysis, but seeing a 45% jump was truly surprising. This new data confirms just how densely populated and socially organized the Maya lowlands were at their peak." End quote. Study shows that Maya settlements were highly organized. Cities and rural areas had the same layout patterns, a central plaza controlled by elites, with houses and farmlands spread around it. Almost every building they mapped was within 3 miles of a plaza, meaning even rural folks were part of city life. The research also shows the northern Maya lowlands were more urbanized than they thought before, which explains the jump in population. Bigger populations probably made political and environmental problems worse, helping set the stage for the decline around 800 to 1000. At a pre-Columbian site called Dos Pilas in Guatemala, archaeologists have been studying a place called Blood Cave, which seriously lives up to its name. Back in the early 90s, digs pulled up piles of human bones, but it's only recently that researchers got a good look at them. The bones show clear signs of being ritually dismembered. These were not normal burials. Over 100 fragments have been dated between 400 BCE and 250 CE. The skulls and bones have beveled cuts, meaning sharp tools like hatchets were used at or near the time of death. Researchers think these body parts were offered to the Maya rain gods to try and end devastating droughts. Skulls were also stacked in columns on the cave floor, mixed with red ochre and obsidian blades. Maya caves were sacred, linked to life, death, rain, and fertility. At Dos Pilas, the blood cave was probably very important for both water control and political power. Researchers are saying the upper-class rulers probably carried out the brutal ceremonies to assert control over the population, using the terrifying rituals to keep people in line. Archaeologists in Guatemala found evidence of a huge fire at the Maya site of Ucanal that happened between 733 and 881, and it may not have been accidental. The team says the fire, quote, marked a public dismantling of an old regime. They discovered bodies and treasures like a jewel-covered stone mask, pieces of a crown, and jade ornaments that had been taken from a royal tomb and then tossed into a fire right out in the open. The researchers said it, quote, appears to have been an act of desecration, and no effort was made to protect the fragmented bones and ornaments, end quote. So basically, it was meant to shock everyone watching. After the flames died down, a new leader who wasn't from the royal family took over. Archaeologists in Campeche, Mexico have found an underground Maya structure hidden beneath a ball court. The team located, quote, parts of an earlier building that had painted walls, but only further excavations may reveal the shape of that underlying building and what its function was, said Ivan Sprayets, the archaeologist leading the dig. He also noted that this is a big deal because, quote, ball courts are normally found only at major Maya sites, which were centers of the regional political organization. On top of a pyramid at another nearby site, the team found offerings left hundreds of years later, ceramic vessels, a ceramic animal leg, possibly of an armadillo, and a blade or spear point. Sprayet said these date to the late post-classic period, 1250 to 1524, long after the Maya classic cities had fallen. Even after most of the classic period Maya settlements had been abandoned, small and impoverished human groups were still rambling around, putting offerings on or near the buildings of their forebearers. Archaeologists working at Tikal in Guatemala found something eerie just steps from the city center, a foreign-style altar surrounded by skeletons. The altar doesn't look Maya at all. It looks like something out of Teotihuacan, a massive city almost 1,000 kilometers away in central Mexico. The altar, painted red, black, and yellow with gods on it, was buried inside a residential compound. Around it, the remains of at least 3 infants. As Professor Stephen Houston put it, were they sacrificed? It's a little hard to say at this point, but the fact that they're positioned there, more or less at the same time and all about the same age, would indicate to us that these are sacrifices. He added that the burials were probably meant to, quote, endow the altar with special powers. This was all part of a bigger story. Back in 378, records show that warriors from Teotihuacan showed up in Tikal, took out the king, and put their own guy in charge. After about 100 years, the Maya just buried the whole place on purpose and walked away, like they wanted to erase it completely. Back in 2015, archaeologists in Guatemala found an obsidian arrowhead with actual human blood still on it, and I think it was part of a ceremony. The discovery was made inside a temple, and it dates to about 500 years ago. Bloodletting was a big deal for the Maya. They believed it carried a person's life force, and that spilling it could feed the gods. As researcher Prudence Rice explained, the idea was that bloodletting was, quote, feeding the gods with the human essential life force. People would cut themselves with obsidian blades, sometimes through the earlobes or tongue, which would be painful, but at least they weren't, cutting up their nether regions. Well, sometimes they cut into their nether regions. I think I'll just end it there. Who can turn down a good old-fashioned chocolate coin? It's just classic. Turns out the idea of chocolate money may be even more classic than we think, though, dating back to the ancient Maya. Maya never really had coins like we do. They mostly bartered for stuff they needed, just like a lot of other ancient societies. But in 2018, researchers got a pretty cool insight into how their economy worked. Turns out they basically had edible money. So you have chocolate. We already knew the Maya loved their chocolate, usually is a hot drink, but new studies of ancient art show it was more than just a treat. It was a form of currency. Murals painted ceramics and carvings from their peak, the classic period 250 to about 900 CE, show market scenes where chocolate was traded. In the 7th century, it was mostly liquid chocolate used for bartering, but by the 8th century, cocoa beans themselves were treated almost like actual money, and even used for taxes. Researchers looked at around 180 scenes showing tributes being given to leaders. Alongside tobacco and maize, the things they used to pay up were often woven cloth and cocoa beans. In 2023, archaeologists announced they'd found a lost Maya city hidden in the jungle of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, inside the Balamku Ecological Reserve. The ruins are called Ocomtún, which means stone column in Yucatec Mayan, named after the Maya cylindrical stone pillars scattered around the site. Lead archaeologist Ivan Sprayetz said the quote, biggest surprise turned out to be the site located on a peninsula of high ground surrounded by extensive wetlands. So basically the city sat on this island of solid land in the middle of swampy jungle. The core of Ocomtún is massive, over 120 acres, filled with plazas, pyramids nearly 50 feet tall, and a ballgame court. The Maya ballgame wasn't just for fun. As experts explain, it could have symbolized a battle between day and night or agricultural cycles. Based on the architecture, Ocomtún was probably around between 250 and 1000 CE before being abandoned during the Maya collapse. I've been your host, James. We'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.